Scott, if you stand up, your head's going to get in the camera. Just don't stand up. Yeah, everybody look interested.
Everybody look interested.
This meeting is taken for live studio audience.
Did you turn it on?
All right. So, we're having this meeting just to talk about, there was questions that came up. People wanted to know some specific questions, especially about insurance, why you should have it. So we'll cover that too. Any other questions that you want to have about the logistics? I want to talk a bit just about, to get you ready, because in the next 6 months, the spirit of a pilgrimage and the distinction between a pilgrimage and a vacation. Okay? So when I planned the itinerary with the travel company, I wanted to try to get a balance, because you can do tourism where you see site after site after site after site, and to be honest, you get pictures, but you don't remember ever visiting there. There's the other option where you just kind of sit in one spot and you just, like you could do that in Rome if you wanted to. So I tried to find a balance, and the other options would be seeing more civil shrines, which are like Roman Colosseum, that has some significance to Christianity, but it's more significant for Rome itself, for the Roman Empire. You can see ancient ruins of ancient cities that are not necessarily Christian, which are fantastic. Or you can focus more on the spiritual side of things, and we're definitely leaning toward the spiritual side of things, Eucharistic miracles, St. Francis of Assisi, and a more contemporary great St. Pio of Pietrelcina. So, a pilgrimage is different than a tour or a vacation, because there's a spiritual nature to a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is meant, and Christians were supposed to take one once a year. A pilgrimage meant that you were on a journey that imitated the journey of life from birth to heaven. So think about it. You start out, right? You have mishaps along the way. Things don't work out the way they're supposed to, but you keep moving forward. In those days, in the early days, in the first few centuries when pilgrimages were encouraged, the mortality rate of people returning was like 50%. So like half the people actually came back. So this was a serious, I expect that everyone will be coming back.
Yeah, I hope so.
So I just, as we travel, there's a lot of things that come together, and I don't expect any major issues. But if we're going on vacation, that'll be okay. But this is a pilgrimage, so we can expect some things maybe not to go, which is why we have insurance. They didn't have insurance in the ancient world. So a pilgrimage is supposed to be a spiritual journey, and think of the destination. Pilgrimages are always to holy sites, eventually to the place where you would see some significance in God. And so, of course, as your journey that imitates your journey from birth to heaven, a pilgrimage is supposed to be a miniature of that in life as you embark from your location all the way to some holy site. And it will be Rome, but we're going to be seeing a lot of different holy sites. The pilgrimage is balanced between seeing stuff and having time just to wander around. In Rome, you're going to find out that all the churches tend to look the same on the outside, but when you go in, they're all different, and you're going to be kneeling there praying, and you're going to be looking, and also you're going to see like the bone or the skull of one of the saints we mentioned in the first Eucharistic prayer. Like there's Lucia, Saint of Light. There's Saint Philip Neri. There's Saint Catherine of Siena. And so it's awesome just to be able to go around Rome and just to see its little treasures, to try the restaurants and stuff, but be able to just have some free time to wander too. So we have that built in because I want you to be able to relax on the pilgrimage rather than have to go one thing after the other and not really remember any of it except that you have pictures and knew you were there. Does that make sense? That was kind of why we balanced it. We're not going to the north like Milan, or the Brescia area, or Venice. The reason why, if you go to the north, you can tack on $1,000 because it's just more expensive up there. It's the difference between Mexico and the United States. I don't want to sound crude, but generally from Rome south, it's kind of a different world. It's more developed and more European as you move north in Italy, and so that's why we decided not to go that far north. So You're welcome on the next pilgrimage. Maybe go up there. Are there any questions off the bat just about that? Okay. Questions about insurance. So why do you have travel insurance? The question is, why do you have any insurance at all? Okay, so apply travel insurance to what you're familiar with auto or home or business insurance. Why do you carry it? You have limits in coverage. You know, your house floods and you call the insurance company and you say, my house flooded, can I have insurance, my insurance money? And people will, what will they say? Yes, you have insurance coverage, or no, you don't. Sorry, that wasn't included. Travel insurance is a lot like that. You can pay for as much as you think that you need. It will cover things from luggage loss and compensation for that, to trip cancellations where you no longer are going, as long as you haven't already embarked on your trip. It will cover medical expenses. I want to be morbid, but it'll cover your return of your body in case that ever happened. I don't include that because I was on a pilgrimage once and a priest had died. He was probably 89 or something like that, and we were in Fatima, and we were making the Stations of the Cross at one of the sites there, and he was just falling way behind, but we didn't realize that he was having a stroke. And so the next morning we wake up, it's like, oh, one of our priests died. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was just that experience in knowing how much that entailed. Like that's pretty major. So insurance can come with a plan. They sent me this. I asked for information. They sent me a big pamphlet that has about 40 pages of legalese in it, and I started reading it, and then I stopped. And then I just looked up something that was a little more simple on the internet, and I'll forward this if anyone is interested in it. So you can decide on what insurance that you might need, and probably coordinate that directly with the tour company. I am not going to take any insurance. If I lose my suitcase, I'll buy more black clothes. Right? My shoes are getting a little comfortable anyways, I'm getting older, so I don't anticipate any medical issues that I would have. You might want to call your health insurance company to find out if they cover you outside the United States. If they do, then you're covered. The other thing you get through insurance is 24-hour assistance and like immediate medical care. So doctors will group, and they'll say, well, we're like we have, like what are they called, PPOs or whatever, that will serve specific needs for people that are insured under these plans. Okay? Any questions about insurance? Let's talk about just some of the logistics and travel. We are flying out of Chicago, and we're going to need, there's an option here, and you guys, we can just take a vote on this if you want, but I thought it would be nice that we all rode a coach bus down from here, down to Chicago, versus everybody trying to get there on their own. After you pay airport parking expenses, you could probably buy a bus between all of us. So we're just gonna buy a bus. So we'll do that and get a charter bus, not a school bus here, and then we'll go down.
Will we leave
Unless
the
you really
cars-
want a school
all
bus.
the cars
One of
will
those
be left
yellow
here?
cabs?
Can we
We'll-
leave that?
You can leave your cars here if you want.
You
It's-
can pick us up on the way.
And just leave them cars here?
What we'll end up doing probably is reserving a spot somewhere in one of the corners of the parking lot and just make sure it's barred off, because it's October, so there's gonna be kids around. So I'm gonna see the kickballs going that far. Alright. So once we get to the airport, we have to do international flight stuff. I'm not sure which airline we're flying, probably Alitalia. And one thing you need to know, or need to do now, is your passport. If you do not have a passport, you need to get one. If your passport expires within 6 months of your departure date, they will not take it. So it has to be good for more than 6 months. It can't have an expiration date. What date would that be? In March. If it expires in March of next year, it's not gonna be good. Okay. Let's see. How much do you need to bring? Well, there's a couple of methods for packing. Some people will pack clothes that they can leave over there so they can bring souvenirs back. in the space they have in their luggage. That is a method that many people have used, so if you wanna consider that, if you want some clothes you wanna get rid of, so if you want a way to,
bathroom, he's dumping his clothes in there.
it's like throw them in the Tiber River. Okay, so, that's one method. Shipping is usually not terribly expensive. If you've got a lot of gifts, you wanna just have them shipped back here. Again, worldwide shipping is pretty easy, so that's another option. In October, the weather is gonna be pretty mild. And so I would expect a sweatshirt, you might wanna prepare for 40s at night, but maybe 50s, 60s during the day.
And, I mean, is this business casual or casual?
I
I
don't,
mean, you're going to churches and stuff, so
yeah, you probably wanna do like, probably,
I mean, you don't need
Business-
ties,
what
sure,
do they call
tie,
it, dressing down, business casual?
business casual.
Slacks and a polo shirt.
Yeah, that's.
Kinda what Deacon Dave is wearing now.
Very much
But
business casual.
Deacon Dave, why don't you stand up and
See,
sit around?
I chose this shirt, although I spilled some gravy, I think.
So it
So-
would be marinara sauce there.
So we're not going to offend anyone in St. Peter's by wearing a polo shirt?
No,
Okay.
Just don't wear shorts.
that'd be common.
Yes,
it-
no
just-
shorts.
Yeah, you try not to wear shorts.
In St. Peter's, especially Americans, that's the only
Wait,
story I
so what you mean is wear pants,
Wear
not
pants.
don't wear shorts.
Wear pants.
Right, gotcha.
What about wearing pants, okay, just pants, okay?
Yeah. Just like, if you dress like a nun, then you're okay.
Well, great, I'll have to go,
Really?
I'll take my outfit.
Is there an opportunity
I'm
to
in.
wash clothes? You must be able to have to wash.
That I don't know. I don't think,
Yes.
normally there's
I've got
public
a bad
services
habit.
that wash clothes, you don't have your own private stuff. So you'd have to bring them to a place to have them washed and they return them to you.
Well, like in the hotel, are there washing machines?
There might be, I think we're 4-star or better hotels, so there might be wash machines, but are there wash machines here in our hotels? Not really,
No,
not
so
generally.
you could plan for,
Well, you could hand wash stuff.
You could hand wash stuff, but I think generally over there, you turn it in and somebody does it for you.
Ooh.
Which is possible, you could do it.
But we're not at the same hotel multiple nights in
yeah,
a row.
we gotta
so-
kinda do it.
Yeah, so I would, again, if you wanna,
I hand wash a lot at home and I'm kinda tired of it.
Not even the honest.
tell us about it.
Washing your hands.
Oh, that's what I meant, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, how about, shots, are there any required? Back, you have to
Not
get,
that I know of for Italy.
cause it
When
says
you-
something,
When you come back, there'll be questions of whether or not you've been out of the country or not,
yeah,
but I don't think there are any going there, not really.
okay.
If I find something out, that's a good question, I didn't find that out.
Do you know if you have medications, can you put them like in a pill box or a bottle, or do you have to bring the actual prescription bottle with you?
You talking through airport security?
Well, that and in Europe.
It's said in the folder somewhere that you're supposed to bring them in there.
In the actual, you'd be
So
safe
they'll be-
doing that,
They'll be packed then.
and make sure they don't have an expiration date on them that's passed. That's it's strangest thing, right? So I mean, obviously prescription drugs would be good after the date, but for some reason they won't. You can't use them in other countries. So, alright.
Will we need any
One.
dress stuff?
You might wanna bring something a little dressier for Sunday masses.
Okay.
Rome has a they have a pretty high standard for dress. Unlike they're pretty fashion conscious, I guess. So,
What about churches over there, you're supposed to sail, with us?
no, not that I know
No?
of.
Okay.
Most churches over there, they tend to be tourist sites. So you don't often find, there's a din of a crowd that's seeing the things in the churches. Maybe the Notre Dame in France, for example, I mean, that's a tourist site, the government owns it, hasn't been used or owned by the church for a while. It's mostly a landmark, like a lot of churches in Europe.
Well, you'll see, like, I remember that, the only time I was in Rome was 50 years ago, but I was shocked when you're at mass and then there's people walking around you, they're just sightseeing, and mass is going on, because it's so
Yeah.
huge, it's
You just get used to that.
a tour, you get used to it,
Yeah,
like,
if you think you're distracted here.
yeah, yeah. You know, there's no
It's
healers.
totally disrespectful. Oh.
Yeah, well, don't worry, Europeans
They
don't go
do
to
that
church
at the
anymore, so you don't have to worry
facility,
about it.
too.
Do they?
I
Yeah,
shouldn't say
that's-
that, but.
And that's pretty normal, it's something you just get used to. You've got the crowd that's kind of up there front, attending and attentive to mass, and then people just walking around quietly.
Do you know if they have hair dryers in these rooms?
Oh, thank you.
Usually,
Usually they do.
I think so, but
It's four-star, they probably do.
also, we don't have the same electrical outlets.
Right.
Well, I
Make
know
sure you
that
have
was
a
my next
converter.
You need
question.
to
You
get
gotta
a-
have a-
If you're gonna use your own electrical stuff, you'll need an adapter. Cell phones, if you have plans that go through the internet, you can use cell phones over there pretty regularly through, if you have Wi-Fi. So if you have Wi-Fi, you're good to go. You can talk to your cell phone company and they will set you up with some sort of plan and you'll be able to call here just like you would anywhere. So, when we get out into the country, it probably won't be as good, as easy, but
Yeah, was there a fee or something?
We talked to our cell phone guy just the other day, and, he talked about just buying a SIM card at the airport that you can put in your cell phone. It's like $25 once you get over there. It gives you a whole different number, but you can use it for like Google Maps and everything if you need it.
yeah. The SIMS card is a little thing that goes in your phone.
Right.
But you gotta put the old one back in
Yep, when you come back.
when you come back.
How much
I have
cash
to
is
lose mine. How much
How
cash?
many lira, 50 million you take? Or none?
Did you say
What's the
lira?
exchange
Lira.
rate right
I
now?
don't think they have lira anymore, it's euros, is
Oh,
it?
it's euros, yeah.
It's euros.
See, I'm behind the times.
That was 50 years ago,
I
right?
had lira.
One,
1,000.
1.4 or something like that,
It's 1.4
something like that.
euros to dollars?
Dollars to euros?
So yeah, 50 million euros, that'd be good.
Yeah, the euros,
Yeah.
$1.30, $1.40, something like that.
Okay.
So should you have? Or
Yeah,
do you do
I
that over
wouldn't.
there?
For the number of days we're going off the bat, $1,000 probably would clear you for the trip.
Oh, wow, the exchange rate has improved, it's $1.12. Per year.
Yeah,
What about credit cards? You just pay for most
you can use those
everything?
regularly. Your credit card will
Most-
give you a charge for an exchange.
Yeah, check with your credit card company, cause it's different for each card.
Right, yeah.
How much
Visa,
they charge you.
Visa and MasterCard usually pay.
late than never.
I mean, those are pretty
Yeah.
acceptable.
They accept them, but you get charged a fee.
The fee is different, yes.
Is that a big fee or?
No, 3.
Well, they
It's a
figured
percentage,
exchange
3%.
or whatever.
For every charge, it's 3% on each.
And Dave, as far as euros, don't get them at the bank. You know, if you get them at the bank here ahead of time, just get enough for the first day, because the exchange rate is usually better when you're in the country.
Depends where you go. You can
And
shop
when
around.
we went to Ireland, they said too, mostly you got a better exchange rate if you went to the ATM with your credit card or debit card,
Yeah,
but that was 10 years ago or so.
most banks or exchange companies will charge a fee for the company, but credit cards can be a little more efficient, so it's usually exchange right away.
And you should notify your credit card company or your bank that you're going to Europe.
Yes, oh yeah, do that, call them so they don't flag you.
The charge for public restrooms,
Pay toilets?
pay toilets.
Yes, in some places there will be.
So we should
I've run into
have-
problems with this in the past, so.
Yeah, have some small change.
Have
I don't know what
some
it
change.
costs.
Father, are you able to use a card over there?
They do
What's
not.
that?
a little scary to use a card over there and then maybe not at all, huh?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay.
Maybe, I like to use cash. The only time I'll ever use a card is if I'm going, like renting a car or something that's a little more official or doing hotel stuff. Restaurants, I wouldn't. I would try to use cash because you never know who you're gonna get taking numbers from a card. And, the other thing is on that theft stuff is pickpockets in Rome. They are very, very good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just gotta keep your wallet in the right spot and, make sure there's no, carry things around your neck. I had a friend who was there and he was in the subway, I'm not sure why they were on the subway. But basically, 3 guys held him while another guy took everything off of him and they jumped off the train. So, and I don't expect that to happen. But Rome is, there's a lot of darkness in Rome, I guess, outside of the Vatican City. So, I don't wanna scare you, but that's, if you're walking around the times we are, it's gonna be fine in places. Streets are pretty well lit. And again, money talks, so if tourists are there, they have a vested interest of protecting tourists, cause they don't want incidents happening because if people aren't gonna travel there, that means a big shock to their economy. So there are 3 or 4 different groups of types of police. So like here you have county and local and state, and maybe even federal, they're the same thing. They've got different kinds of police, so you'll see them all over.
Is it smart to carry your passport with you all the time?
No, you probably wanna leave your passport, you wanna make a copy of your passport for sure, and you wanna always leave that at your hotel. I carry my passport with me, but they say you shouldn't. If you lose it, if you have a copy, it's easy, fairly easy to get a new one. But if you wanna leave it at the hotel, that's fine, especially if you're traveling in a group. So
You can carry the copy around?
no, leave the copy back at the hotel. Or you could carry the copy with you and leave your main one at the hotel. Either way, you just should have it in 2 different places. So you can easily go to the embassy to get a new one if you lose it. All right,
Lot of walking.
yes, have a good pair of shoes. Hopefully you've worn your shoes that you bring over there for at least 1 month to make sure if there's any issues worked out of it and make sure they're not too old. Walking is not an even path. Most of the streets there are cobblestone, and so you wanna be careful where you're stepping. And yeah, lots of walking. You can probably plan on 4 miles a day maybe. There'll be days that are less, but we might go up to 7. Not all at once, but just over time.
Do we have private bathrooms everywhere? I asked that because we stayed in a hotel in Germany and the bathroom was shared by
I don't know.
everybody on the floor, so.
I don't know what the hotels, I'm not familiar with all the hotels. That maybe? You don't wanna share one with Dave, is that it?
Oh, no. Just wondering if I have to go out in the hallway and I wear a robe or something.
Yeah, I can't answer that, I don't know.
You'll see when you get there.
I guess so.
There's a lot, they do put lines on the doors.
Pick a bathroom.
I don't know.
Yes, Bob?
Father, regarding the insurance program that's offered, my understanding that if you have an illness and you're overseas, that the insurance company doesn't cover that, the insurance you're buying for this trip.
Uh-huh.
That is something that would be covered, first of all, by yourself, is my understanding. That some friends of ours were overseas and they had some type of problem that required surgery. And they ended up maxing out or using their credit card to pay for the cost of that operation. And then when they got back, they got reimbursed by their insurance company. So that was the way it worked for them. I don't know if that
So you'd have to call your insurance company probably and find out.
It would
but-
probably be a good idea to check to see what would happen. This was some attack,
And again,
gallbladder, or something or another, and it had to be taken care of right then and there. Then there are different levels of healthcare. You have the national healthcare there, and they also have the special healthcare that you would want to go to. I know they were directed to the right hospitals, and it's good to know some of those things if something happens. That there's different levels of healthcare in these countries. I don't know about Italy, but
Yeah, and again, it depends, like any insurance company, you can get, because they get the specialized doctors, if you sign on with a particular insurance company, they will find you one of their doctors, and that's the different gradations that you're talking about. So the national medicine in Italy is probably gonna be, like they're gonna bring us to if we don't have anything special. So, I don't know what the condition actually of their healthcare system is, but they're pretty good, I assume, they're not a.
I don't know, just something to consider, you know, that if something does happen, you might wanna check with your insurance company before you leave to see what they would cover if you were overseas and needed some help.
I think that's the key, and all insurance companies are different, so you have to find out from yours.
And then also, as far as the health insurance, the coverage in the event that something were to happen to where you had to cancel your trip. I know some friends of ours, it wasn't them that were ill, but it was one of their children that became ill. And then it became an issue as to whether or not they would reimburse them for the cost of the trip that they had paid for. So it's important to, if you're going to have insurance, it's not only for yourself, but it's also for your immediate family members if something were to happen to them prior to you leaving.
I think they explained, that legalese form you had, you should have all got that in that packet when you send your deposit. The tour company sent it, it's explained in there, but you gotta go.
Yep. Again, it all depends on the insurance company and what you sign up for.
Cancel for any reason. The Lux insurance plan has a cancel for any reason clause.
One other question, and that's regarding charging your iPads or whatever with the power difference there. You need an adapter.
We do.
Where do you buy those at?
You can buy them there, I would suggest buying them here.
Where?
I was just buying them here somewhere. Most like department stores will probably have conversions for
They do.
for Europe. And make sure you get the one specifically for Italy, yeah. I think Walmart has them.
Okay.
You can even find them
That's
sometimes at the impulse purchase part of the store just before you check out.
Sure.
I've seen them there before.
When you were there, did you have a special adapter just for Italy, or does that cover all of Europe?
Italy is gonna be different than Germany.
That's what I understand.
But usually the converters, they have multiple ports in the converter,
Okay,
just which one you gotta plug in.
okay, sure.
When we went to Ireland, they have different also, but the converter we got had multiple,
Okay.
Why
outlets.
doesn't everyone just follow the US? It'd be much easier.
What about drinking the water?
The water in Italy is gonna be okay. The issue with, different countries with the water is that they normally only will run the pumps for a certain amount of days or periods, and so you have these big tanks above your house, and you gotta fill those up on the days that your water is on. Then you have to use that water over the days when it's not on, and that's where the parasites come from. And also bad pipes and stuff underground.
Sure.
But the water is pretty well purified over there, but we're gonna be in Italy, so you're gonna be drinking wine. So the wine is slightly more expensive than water.
Dave, when you were there, they drink wine.
So,
What are the costs, I mean, like food and stuff, is it more, you know, like in wine, is it more expensive?
no, it's not. Every restaurant is gonna have a sort of, as a house wine. And,
Okay, sure.
and so they'll just have that freely. They'll probably have 2 or 3 different house wines that you can choose from. But yeah, we'll be drinking wine, so. The The water is fine to drink. Most people over there will get bottled water,
Yeah, sure.
so, like we do here. I mean, our water's fine, but everybody drinks bottled water. Yeah, he's suggesting the medicine.
Forgot what that used to be called, they used to get some long names started with it. It's like a probiotic.
Sure.
and You use that, it usually takes care of any minor.
Right,
imperfections.
Where will we be walking through a lot of steep grades, or is it more?
In Italy, it'll be flat stone and stairs.
And stairs, but
In
not-
Assisi, it's gonna be more up and down. There's not a lot of stairs there. It's a great medieval town. It hasn't changed much in about 600 years. So, pretty well preserved. You see the little cave where St. Clair was? Still preserved. Anyway. So, any other
question.
questions?
Plus, you said motels are pretty safe, so if you've got all this cash you're taking with you, you can leave, 80% of it in the room, and then just take what you think you're gonna need for the day. Is that a
Yeah,
safe practice?
Yeah, you'll probably be all right with that. And again, you can kind of decide, like what you're gonna need. A lot of our meals are gonna be provided at the hotel, like, the breakfast and lunch ones, some of the dinners. But you probably just need enough cash maybe for dinner that we don't have provided. The other big expense is gonna be gifts that you wanna buy. We'll try to, I don't know where we're gonna be in Rome on the final days or the beginning days, but most people will load up on gifts at the end with whatever cash they may have left. There'll be places I hope we can go in St. Peter's, good stores, where you can get everything that you could possibly think of you'd want for somebody. So, if you have any like specialized things, places that you'd wanna go, like gift stores for special stuff, we can try to find places and hike over to them, so. We'll have a tour guide too, cause I can't do this thing. So be able to ask them, do you need to learn Italian? No. In Rome, everyone speaks English. They will appreciate that you're trying to speak Italian, and then you can stop. They just speak English, because they like to practice their English too. So. Outside of that, learn some Italian, why not? Okay, no.
I said pizza.
Andiamo, yeah.
I think we should have dinner together. Maybe sometime in September, we do an Italian potluck or something. Kind of thing.
That would be good. Who wants to make food?
Well, I was thinking I wanted to cook for everybody, but I didn't know how to do that, so I changed it to potluck.
Oh, well, we could make a same, like.
I like that.
Huh?
One of the things that you probably wanna try, most people have probably had carbonara before.
Yeah?
Like, that's a pretty, when you're first getting into Italian food, it's probably the thing you first wanna try, and then you can kind of venture out from there, but maybe we could have that here.
Yeah.
And then, when you get there, you can venture out on some other stuff.
I'll bring pizza.
All right, pizza?
You wanna cook with me?
Yeah, I will.
We'll cook. Can I volunteer our house? Okay, I just did.
If you want to, all right.
Yeah, we
We'll
can
give you a
have it
date
at
on the
our
calendar,
house
I'll
and
send it out.
Father and I will cook Italian for everyone.
So I had asked in a couple of emails, two of them, to see who would not be going for sure. And I received probably about maybe 8 to 10 replies. And I have still over 50 people on my list. We have 29 signed up right now. So there's another half out there that I'm not sure. So if you know someone that hasn't confirmed,
everybody
Yeah.
here confirmed? Like,
Everybody here, I think, is on the list.
If we do end up with 50 people,
might not have
I
enough room?
take back the offer. So,
Sam's. What else?
right, hosting the 50 would be changed.
You can cook.
Well, I've
it.
done
We
it.
can just host, we can just have it in the Good Shepherd room or something.
We really could.
Like,
Can't
yeah,
cook
but then carbonara, you have to cook fresh and plate, you can't just,
We have a kitchen here. And I have a key.
you know what carbonara is?
No.
No,
Oh, it's bacon and eggs, pasta. Well, it really is actually, but yeah, you make
It's kind of like eggs, it's kind of like the hollandaise sauce.
yeah,
with
it's close to
bacon
the
poured
hollandaise
over it.
sauce. Not quite though, it's
Not
not,
quite.
it's not citrusy tangy,
Right.
it's good,
It's,
it's like a favorite,
it's got bacon, so how can you lose?
right? Father's gonna make the sauce, I'll make the sauce.
All right, so when is our deadline for turning this stuff in? July 7th, 6/29 is the early date. And then what is the date, 7? June 29th is the early pricing date. Save $100. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you guys are all good there, but, yeah, for the deposit.
The final payment is
Then I
in
don't have to worry
July,
about forgetting the date.
but if you're late, I think we tag on a fee.
I think so.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
How, if we wanna like, possibly upgrade our airline seat to maybe a comfort seat?
You have to do that 30 days before.
How do we do that? Is that
You
through-
call the agents, the travel agent. Just call these people.
Oh, Pentecost people?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay, when they're booking our flights?
when
Because
they're
they don't have a flight
picking
yet.
the seat.
yeah, they'll figure it out.
Okay.
How long is the flight?
From Chicago, it'll be about 11 hours.
I hope this is a big enough plane to get up and walk for a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be
If
a,
I have to sit for, I'm never gonna walk.
it'll be a 767 or bigger, not a 737. The ones that are crashing.
Yeah, I hope not.
It's more my deal.
More than likely, if it's Alitalia, it's probably gonna be Airbus.
Yeah,
Their big planes are pretty,
Yeah.
pretty roomy. But when you sit in the economy class or something, I think it's 2, 6, and 2. I mean, they're wide bodies. Unless you get stuck in that middle row.
How do you feel about cooking on a Monday?
Yes, off and running.
That's why I'm asking.
I don't feel, I react.
What,
We will be
Monday
flying
okay with you for that?
Yeah, Monday's probably okay.
Alright.
Just
September 16th?
September
your birthday.
16th?
That's his birthday.
That's your birthday? We'll make it.
You will bring the cake.
We are, yeah. Well, yeah, the flight will be overnight, so if you want something, a sleep aid of some sort.
Wine.
Wine.
Sleep
Start
aid.
building up
Yeah,
a
like
result.
on
They serve alcohol on
What
the
time
plane.
is here, do you know yet?
Two?
Good luck.
I highly
no,
recommend.
we do have a
As
time.
long as I
limit.
can get the
Remember,
margaritas, I'll be fine.
Just do a brandy patch.
Brandy patch?
our departure from Chicago
Yes,
says
steel patches.
4:05 PM.
So
Oh,
the-
my
Oh, wait, we do not have a direct flight.
that's what we love.
So where would it be?
Flight is usually
Walking around with a lemon and some.
We're Chicago, we're going to Amsterdam first,
A little salt.
Andale.
I could
and then we're going to
hear a lot
Rome.
of them.
Really? That's kind of
Hear
strange.
a lot of
Maybe
them.
that's
That's
what
what I'm
it
saying.
Amsterdam.
I did, I remember that.
So it's still going to be the same amount of time.
So if it's leaving at 4,
Otherwise,
that means we have to be there at 1, so we probably have to leave like at 10 in the morning.
Yeah, when you get there with the jet lag, you're gonna wanna just push through it.
Flying east isn't bad, flying back is bad.
you gain, there you lose.
So we
Right,
miss-
you fly
we
through
miss
the
a
night and we get there, it'll be morning,
Right.
so it's.
Could be like you missed the night.
Yeah. If you can sleep on the plane, it's not bad at all, but when you fly back, you kind of stay with the time zone and you lose all those hours in the air, so. But my experience anyway.
It's probably worse.
What about the meals now? So are there gonna be a good breakfast in the morning and a good lunch and then supper? How's that work?
Well, in Italy, they usually eat a light breakfast, so there'll be a pastry and some cheese, some fruit, stuff like that. And then the main meal they have is in the middle of the day. It's called pranzo. And it usually happens around 2 o'clock. Everything will shut down from 2 until 5 or so, until it opens again. And then usually, people have light dinners. I stay on the American schedule usually when I'm there. So, at night we usually do a pretty heavy dinner and lunch can be lighter. I'm not sure if they're gonna arrange our meals around their custom schedule, but I would guess they probably will. So that's what you can expect. So the dinners, if you're gonna have a big dinner, maybe you wanna go lighter on the pranzo afternoon dinner.
I think that I read though that they provide breakfast and then dinner at the end of the day.
Well, they
I
do.
think it
It
says
looked like
in
we were
there,
on our own.
doesn't it say for the?
Oh, it
I
is.
think actually every day in the
Every
itinerary,
day
it
is
says
something.
which meals you're
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
Good on
After,
your phone.
there's like a D, a B, a D, a B, B, D, B. I think, I think that stands for breakfast and dinner.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Like
I
right
think
at the
they
very
forgot
end
to
of each
mention
one,
that.
there's a, it says what it's
What's
on there.
included in
Yeah,
that day.
like here, in highlighted, it's B and D. So on day 5, you would have breakfast and dinner then. That's the way I was reading it.
Yeah, that's what I understood too.
So I didn't see any lunches really.
Yeah, that one's just breakfast, that one's breakfast and dinner.
But I didn't really see, I think they're all breakfast and dinner, aren't they?
I don't see any others.
Yeah, breakfast and dinner every day, it looks like.
Yeah.
This one just breakfast.
Yeah, cause that one was dinner on her own.
No, exactly, I'm thinking that.
Oh, yeah, and tile, this is our like day to roll up and have. That's a
Actually, the meals are really good on the airport.
I think they give you a nice change,
I think
you know,
they're
there,
food
and everything.
is pretty
is
substantial.
I remember.
Yeah, those are gift shops, any shrine that we worship. It wouldn't be a Catholic shrine, but it's gift shops.
You had just as much as I did. Why did you say that? Why did you say that?
They had to use it, and it worked.
Keep something. All right, any other questions?
Think there'd be a place
I
that
had
maybe
absolutely
I
nothing
can
to
go
do
to
with what you
Ontario.
brought along.
Interesting thing was, we did that several, we sang in Italian.
I thought it was the Beatles too, but.
It wasn't
But you
Beatles,
couldn't
no.
tell if we were in Italian or not, I don't.
You remember that?
I do remember that.
I remember that.
Cranking out old solo mio.
It was,
I had forgotten.
And how many glasses of wine was that?
not for me, I think David there.
It was
All right.
That's it. Or are we just asking questions to ask questions? I've got one. No, I don't.
Actually, I have a real,
Oh.
not a real question.
Carbonara?
Well, it's a real question, it just has nothing to do with the church. And my wife's kicking me. She didn't really have.
Don't volunteer the house.
What is it? Now you got us all.
My question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so in the Eucharist, it's Christ's body, blood, soul, and divinity, right? The body and blood I can see, right? This is humanity of Christ, right? And the divinity I can kind of grasp what this is, but I never really thought about the soul of Jesus.
Me neither.
So anyway, you can contemplate that, we'll talk about it on September
But
sixteenth.
there's certain rules that you have to follow in Catholic theology, right? So, I love Catholicism because it sticks by their principles and it just extends them to everything. So, ordination, for example. I'm a priest, and I will be a priest for all eternity. Doesn't matter what I do from here on out. So, there were times in the church where priests rebelled and they started ordaining their own priest. The Anglican Church, for example. The Catholic Church said, well, if they're valid priests or bishops, they have the ability to ordain people. Even if the church says no, they're illicit, they don't have permission to do it, but we will stick by our principles, that's what we believe. So when we say the body, blood, soul, and divinity, what we're trying to get at there is that there's a rule that what is not assumed is not redeemed. Jesus was fully human and fully divine. If he was fully human, he had everything that we have. And that has to include a soul. So the soul is thrown in there to, again, well, how is that possible? And theologians try to work that stuff out. But the idea is that every part of humanity was redeemed. You know, so I mean, it's weird to think about, and people might get a little like grossed out by it, but God used the bathroom. Right? We kind of sometimes hold Jesus to be this, and these have different swings about history. Jesus is this guy up here who's not really, doesn't have a lot to do with us, but he was a human. He did everything that we did. He had everything we had. What is not assumed is not redeemed. Does that make sense? So, he didn't just
help a
redeem
lot, but
part of us. What's that?
It didn't help with that contemplation of soul of Jesus, but I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so you can keep contemplating that, I guess, but the reason why we say body, blood, soul, and divinity is what we're trying to say is that it's all of them. Those things aren't separated. I mean, even, how do you contemplate the human soul? How many angels can dance at the point of the needle?
All
They're fun to think about, but. Any other questions? That just opened up a whole nother avenue.
I have one from Relevant Radio. Father Simon was going on about the Catholic Church
Is this Lieutenant Tyree?
endorses all that science has found out, including the Big Bang Theory, which I didn't know, but, okay. So it took billions and billions and billions of years for the Earth to form and to get, but how does that coincide with Adam and Eve? I don't understand. If you're doing the scientific Big Bang Theory and then there were insects that grew into, you know, we evolved from apes, is that what we're saying, that we believe in that? Then how does Adam and Eve fit in there?
We're saying that faith doesn't conflict with that possibility.
Okay,
So the church has always believed, and it's not new, that it's possible that God, in creating the animals, just simply gave the apes a soul.
okay, but Adam and Eve and the whole story of Adam and original sin, how does that come out of evolution? That we can pinpoint a time that, because we say God created the world and then he created man and then he created woman. I can't put that together. I mean, how do we know the point in time that we say that he created Adam and Eve and then we came into original sin?
Well, that-
Because Eve,
Our Bible wouldn't really help us out with that. That would actually be a thing of science. If science wants to age the world, age humanity, and through genealogy and biology, if they want to determine, for example, which I think they have, that we've evolved from one set of parents, all of us, that our DNA code is I think like 97 or 98% like that of frogs.
oh really?
Yeah, we have like a 97% compatibility rate with frogs, like, what? So,
It's for their humbling.
this idea that, that's something science can tell us if they wanna try to age things, but when they age the Earth, they're like plus or minus 10 billion years, we think the Earth is this old. So, again, that's sort of a mystery. There's, what about dinosaurs,
Right.
right? So then you'll have certain Christian groups say, well, the devil put them there to cast doubt. Like, no, they're an object of science. Somehow there were dinosaurs there. Maybe before God created human beings, he's like, well, I'm gonna create these, human creatures too, but the dinosaurs are gonna eat them, so I better get rid of the dinosaurs. So there's no conflict between the two things is what we're saying. And that's what Father Rick would say. So the evolutionary, the theory, the Big Bang Theory was first put forward by a
Great.
Belgian scientist,
Yeah.
George Lemaitre. So, again, the universe is expanding from a central point. It's expanding, but it's not accelerating, it's slowing down. These are all scientific facts. But where science leaves off, faith has to pick up. For example, the mystery of the universe. There's more mass in the universe than we can account for visible reality. Right? Does that make sense?
That's-
Say that again.
Yeah, I went over my head.
Basically, they do some calculations to weigh the universe, but they determine that the universe weighs more. Sort of like, we were talking in our podcast, Luke said the other day that they apparently were trying to weigh the human soul by, after a body had died, measuring the difference, the instant difference in weight between. Yeah, the human soul is immaterial, which means to say that is erroneous. We wouldn't even try to pretend to make that comparison. And the people in the 50s, that once we could see atoms, attempted to determine that holy water was molecularly different than regular water. That's absurd. That's not what we're saying when it comes to sacraments of faith. Right? What's that? Yeah, there's no conflict between we bow to science, in the sense that if science says something factual, the truth of science and the truth of our faith can never be in conflict. We may not have them reconciled yet, but eventually we come to faith even through science. And St. Paul said, I think in Romans 1:19, we know that God exists through the things he created on the earth. We come to know God by creation. Creation's not in conflict with knowing God.
You know, I may add, if I'm, the Big Bang, the problem that I see with this is that we've moved away from, so this Big Bang occurred, so let's all think about that. How did that happen? That's the question.
Right.
In the church, I assume most of the church said, God, if there was a Big Bang, which there could well have been, when God said, let there be light,
Right.
who knows what happened at that point? There might have been a Big Bang that occurred. I get that. But if God's not involved, that's where science is leading us, and they're leading our kids. That there is no God. That this just somehow happened. That this just magically happened, and we're all here. And that's, I think, where you start going, whoa, wait a second here now.
Two planets collided and then all of a sudden,
Well,
yeah,
it just
whatever,
happened.
whatever happened.
Nothing from, Aquinas said, nothing from nothing is nothing.
Right.
You can't have something from nothing. So, that's where I always try to. And the other thing where Father said, the 98% DNA with the frogs, that's where the movie The Creature of the Black Lagoon was actually based on that.
That is.
And with that, let's go. Remember The Creature of the Black Lagoon? They look like a frog.
Did Andy right there?
On that note.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. Look forward to it. We'll be here before we know it.
Oh, wait, they have to enjoy summer.
Oh, yeah, well, of course.
Get some
Yeah,
rest.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
A little cubic, and then two little blocks on the side.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. Because I didn't wanna not wear anything.
That thing's still running?
Right, but I didn't do much.